Okay, so here we are, back to make the neck and body. I had actually a pretty big commission that I had to work on and get finished, so I was working on that for a while, and here I am. So neck and body, it wants us to do the chain 2 and 7 single crochet in the second chain from the hook thing, but once again I'm gonna magic circle because they can't tell me what to do, you know, like you do. So I'm gonna bring my yarn over my finger, wrap it around once. This is how I do it. I grab the little bottom so it doesn't float away. Hook goes under, grabs my working yarn, brings it under the tail, twists around, and then I pinch the loop and the tail of my yarn with this hand, bring my yarn up, and then I switch to this, and then I'm just gonna, just to secure, I'm gonna single crochet or slip stitch 1, and then I'm just gonna do 7 single crochet into the loop. So 1, 2, 3, and I'm just making sure to hold on to my loop down here so it doesn't get twisted. 4, 5, 6, 7. Now when you use a slip stitch to secure this, you don't count it as your stitch. So we have 2, 4, 6, 7 stitches here, and then this little knot down here is our slip. So I'm going to tighten this up, and then for our next row we got these brackets where it says INC, that stands for increase, which is 2 single crochet in 1 stitch, and then it has the amount of times that we're going to do that afterwards. So it says 7 times, which means in each stitch, since we have 7 stitches, we're going to do an increase around. And this is where I'm going to get out my stitch marker. So just to doubly check, I'm going to count back to find my first stitch, even though I know where it is, but just to show you, 2, 4, 6, and then this one here, it gets a little twisted, is 7. So you kind of just want to encourage that to come this way a little. Make sure you get your hook under both loops here, like that. And then I'm going to do this first single crochet and put my stitch marker in to that stitch, because I prefer to mark the first stitch of my round for some reason. So now I'm going to continue with a second single crochet into this stitch. So insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both loops on my hook, and then I'm going to do 2 of those into each of my remaining stitches around. Okay, so rows 3, 4, 5, and 6, rows 3 to 6, wants a single crochet in each stitch around. But first I'm gonna pull this tight, and I'm gonna get my needle. Come here, needle. And I'm gonna secure this. I'm gonna pull it really tight. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna knot it. So let's see, we'll go under a loop. It doesn't really matter where, as long as it's on the wrong side, the inside of our work, not the outside. And then just pull this tight, and then just for extra security, I'm going to weave this end in a couple of times, and I might trim this. I might just leave it and stuff it, you know, inside as I work, which is probably what I'll do because it's the easier option. And just do one more. Back down this way. Hey, stop that. Okay, there we go. Alrighty, so now I forgot my pen. I don't feel like going to get it, so we're just gonna keep track. That's what we're gonna do. So this is starting 3. Do my first stitch, put my stitch marker back, single crochet in each stitch around. Like so. So this was row 3. I will probably turn this off while I do the rest and then turn it back on when I'm done row 6. So I'm on round 5, and one thing that is going to happen is your work is going to curl towards you. You want it to curl the other way, so I just kind of do it as I go, but when you're working in a circle like this, it can kind of stretch out your stitches a little, so that where basically the stitch you just worked is kind of in the corner of the stitch that you worked into. And if you're not paying attention, it can look like this is your next stitch that you're going to work into, when in reality, you just worked into that one. So that's something to look out for. And if it's curling like this in, another thing to look out for is that you're just catching that top loop, which is another reason why I like to keep reinforcing and making it go, you know, the way it's supposed to, with right side facing out and wrong side facing in. But that is something that you want to be careful of, because it's easy, and it is also easy to do when you're doing like decreases and you have a single crochet across 2, because that will be on the corner of this side of the stitch, and so it'll be kind of a lot of stitch left, and it'll look like maybe that's a full stitch, but it's not. So you just want to make sure you're watching for that. You can check and make sure. See, I have my loops going around this stitch. I know I already worked into it. So I will be back after round 6. Okay, so end of round 6. And I want to show you real quick. When you're working in the round, it can be kind of difficult, or more difficult rather, to count your rows and know what's going on. So as you can see, we have, this is higher here because we're working in the rounds and we're kind of like laddering up, right? So depending on where you start counting from, if you don't know where to start counting from, you can get conflicting numbers of how many rows you've done. So down here, if we look, this very center is our original set of 7 single crochet. And then here, like a little snail shell, it bumps up and spirals outward. Okay, so I'm gonna start counting with on the side where the end of my row is. So this is 1, and then this is 2, right? So I'm gonna leave my kind of new row area to the side, and I'm not gonna worry about that, because if I count just from over here, then this will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's how I like to count in the round, to make sure. See, because if you, I mean, it just kind of depends, but like if you look over here and you're not sure that this is your first row, and so you start here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that gives you 5, and you know that's not right. So this little center is your first row. And if you, here, for the second row, if you look carefully, you can see where it kind of like branches up and goes around. But after that, then it can be pretty difficult and or literally impossible to tell. So, anyways, and I like this about this pattern, by the way. It has a little diagram down here, and it tells you where you're starting, and I like that. I appreciate that a lot. I like to know. It helps me to be oriented when I know where what I'm working on at the moment. So that is the neck made. Now we're going to begin shaping body. So our next set, chain 9, single crochet, and second chain from the hook, and in the next 7 chains, single crochet in the next 6 stitches, increase, single crochet in the next 7 stitches. Okay, so we're gonna have a total of 23 stitches when we're done this. Oh, let's double check our count. I usually like to do that. If I have a number of rows where I'm repeating, just single crocheting and just stitching around, I like to usually count before and after. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Okay, so chain 9. So just like you would starting out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And a chain is just yarn over and pull through the loop on your hook. Now, we're going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So not this one. This is the first chain from our hook. This is the loop on our hook. The second chain from our hook. And in the next 7, which gives us 8, which is 9 minus our 1 turning chain at the top there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, this says single crochet in the next 6 stitches. Now, sometimes in patterns, they will want you to continue working off of your chain, and usually in that case, they'll indicate that chain 1 and turn, or something else to indicate. But just since it says just our next 6 stitches, we're just going to work back into our working around. So we're going to start down our row here. I'll take this out first, I guess, so that doesn't happen. And here, since I took my stitch marker out, it's a really good example of how this looks like a full stitch, right? But my loops go around it. That's how I can tell that this particular stitch has been worked in. So 1, put my stitch marker back, I guess, just because, why not? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then it wants an increase. So we will do 2 single crochet in this next stitch. 1, 2, and then single crochet in the next 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now we're back to where we started. Okay. So now we have 23 stitches. Okay, so for our next row, things get kind of complicated, and this is an example of where a pattern can be kind of unclear if you aren't familiar with sort of how these things are done. So we have 23 stitches from our last round that we counted, and now it says working in the back loops of the chain previously made, single crochet in the next 7 stitches. So these are our back loops over here. This looks a little like a rope, not like our set of V's, right? So you might look at this and think that you work into this stitch here. It's kind of the prominent one. So sometimes if you're not entirely sure, it's good to plan out and count out the stitches that are going to be in the row before you do it. So if we look over here, right, we know that we chained 9, and we worked in the second chain from the hook, and single crocheted 8 total. So here's our first, well, our last rather, down here. So if we just kind of say, run this across, right? So we have 1 to here, 2 to here, 3, move stitch marker, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So then we have this instruction to increase 2 times and then single crochet in the next 14 stitches, increase, single crochet in the next 8. So now our next stitch is the back of this chain, you know, which is 8. And then this was 9 up here. This is our turning chain. Now to determine whether we're going to work into that, since it doesn't specify, we're going to count. So this was at 7, right? So then increase 1, increase 2 up here, and then starting with this stitch here, working under both loops again, we're going to count 2, 4, 6, 8, and then counting this one, 10, 12, 14 right here. And then this would be an increase, and then 2, 4, 6, 8. So that gives us the right amount of stitches. And this took me, I had to turn it off for a minute and give it a count, because, you know, if it doesn't specify, you know, I counted including this, I counted not including this, things like that, just to make sure, because when it doesn't, sometimes these things, they're just not super clear. They assume you'll know or whatever. And so that's a way that I think works to figure out where it is you're supposed to be working and where you're supposed to be putting what stitches. So we're going to work up, down, and then around. So here we go. We're going to single crochet 1, 2. These will be a little harder to get under just the correct one. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we will increase 1. So 2 single crochet under this loop. Increase 2. I'll do 2 single crochet under this loop here. And then starting here, working under both loops again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll take this out. 9. And we're working into there primarily because that's what we needed to do to make our count, right? 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Oh wait, now we do our increase. And sometimes it'll say, like, you know, work into the same stitch you worked before, or work into the next stitch in the rounds. And this time it didn't really specify quite either way. So that's why I do the count and I see if we're supposed to work into it or not. So now we do an increase after 14 stitches. So 2 single crochet in 1 and then single crochet 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now at this point, if you want to have 2 stitch markers going, because this is sort of a different setup now, that's fine. You can use as many as you like. Actually, I would recommend using maybe different colors. So I'll probably grab another one just to try to make things clear. Probably won't end up needing both, but okay. So we should have 35 stitches now. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 35. Now, we sort of have a new beginning of our row, so I'll place a stitch marker as I do this. We're going to single crochet in the next 8 stitches, and then again we have brackets, so we're going to increase and then we're going to do it the specified number of times, which is 3, and then single crochet in the next 24. So working into this first stitch right here, because now there's no chains, nothing, everything, all the stitches that look like stitches are stitches now. So we're gonna single crochet right there. We're gonna place this stitch marker so that if we lose count, we know where we started our row, even though right now it's kind of obvious, but we're gonna do it anyway. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now it's pretty common in a thing like this, since we have 3 stitches around the edge, you need more stitches to work into for that area to grow, to do the increases. So that's another way, once you get to know patterns more. Say you were counting and you kind of knew what you were shaping and your increases were coming up over here or over here or something, that after time you would kind of realize that doesn't probably make as much sense unless there was something that needed to like bump out there. Because that's another thing, if people don't realize that the count is going all the way around now, that can be confusing. I don't know if that makes any sense. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Single crochet in the next 24. 1, 2, 3. No, stop doing that. We're going to take out this stitch marker as we go by, because this isn't where our row starts anymore. And I don't think we're going to need it. And otherwise it gets in the way. Goodbye, stitch marker. Okay, and we'll give our stitches a count. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38 as intended. Alrighty, so single crochet in the next 10 stitches, increase 3 times, single crochet in the next 25. So now we're essentially doing basically the same thing, except we're accounting for one of the increases we made, and we're just making everything a little bit bigger. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now we have kind of a new middle of 3 stitches, which is these 3 here. So increase in each of those. And then single crochet in one each in the rest of the stitches around. Okay, so our next instruction is to single crochet in each stitch around for a number of rows again, for a number of rounds. So we're gonna double check our count, and then I'll just turn this off, do those rows. So it's 11 through 17, so it's kind of, well, not like a lot, but it's kind of a lot. So I'm gonna count these stitches. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 40, 41. So now for 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 11 through 17, just going to single crochet in each stitch around. And I'll see you after that. Okay, coming up on the end of row 17, we might have to head inside as it is likely going to start raining soon. But since I didn't have a pen with me and I didn't want to lose track of my rows, I just left in my stitch markers. And this is a good example of how the end of your row, the beginning of your row, kind of shifts over when you're working in the round. As you can see by the stitch markers being slightly more over. So this is the beginning of round 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and I just finished 17. So I think I might just head inside now, as it's starting to get kind of thundery, and pick this up inside. Okay, so it's the next day. I finished row 17 and I removed the extra stitch markers that I was using to count. And now we're going to start the next row. So first it just wants us to single crochet in the next 11, and then we're gonna do a decrease, which is the single crochet 2 together in the brackets there, and then after the brackets it tells us the amount of times we're going to do that, so we're going to do it 3 times, so that's going to be 6 stitches total that we're going to work across, and then single crochet in the next 15, and then another set of 3 decreases, and then single crochet in the last 3. So here we go. Okay, so now we are going to decrease 3 times. So that's insert into the first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. Insert into the second stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. So that's 1, 2, 3. Now single crochet 15, right? Yep. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hey, stop it. 9. That's 9, right? Let's find our last decrease. So decrease, decrease, decrease. 2, 4, 6, 8, yeah, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And decreases, you know, increases to me, they make a little bigger of a window. But decreases, they have this sort of more horizontal stitch where it looks like they're stretched. And if you feel, you can feel that they're thicker than the other stitches around them. Let's see, decrease 3 times. So 1, 2, 3, and then single crochet in the last 3. And again, this isn't the stitch that we're working into because of the decrease. It might look like it because it looks like a full stitch, but we already worked into it. So this is our stitch here. 1, 2. Get out of the way, stitch marker. 3. Okay. So next we're going to do basically the same thing, just with a smaller interval. So we'll be decreasing in basically the same location, front and back. So we're going to start with 9 single crochet this time, and it looks like the next row we're doing the same thing, but again with a smaller interval. So here we go. This is 1, and we'll do 9, so 8 more. Sometimes you just gotta count a couple times to make sure. Decrease 1, decrease 2, decrease 3, single crochet in the next 12, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then 3 decreases. Decrease 1, decrease 2, decrease 3, and then single crochet in the next 2. Okay. Now if your intervals don't line up, if you get to the end and you have more or less than 2 stitches, you want to count your work and see if there's something that you counted wrong, if you didn't do enough decreases or what have you. I'm going to get this tail out of the way since it keeps tangling up. Okay. So now we're going to do basically same type of thing, just with smaller intervals, and then a row of single crochet in each stitch around. One decrease, 2 decrease, 3 decrease, and then we want single crochet in the next 9. Decrease 3 times. 1. Now when you're doing decreases, you do kind of want to be careful not to let your yarn sort of get too stretched as you're going, so that you, because you're always gonna, decreases and increases are always gonna have, oh, so this just ends on the decrease 3 times, okay. Kind of be noticeable a little bit, but if you keep it kind of still tight, not too tight, but just, you know, pulled down a little, it'll work out. So now we want to single crochet in each stitch around for 23 stitches. All our intervals worked out, so you know we have a good amount of stitches, but we're just going to count 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 23, which is how many we're supposed to have. So we're going to single crochet in each stitch around. Why have you done this? Don't mind my yarn, just throwing a fit. Okay. Back to what I was doing. Hey. Okay. Okay. Now, this is our last row for neck and body. Okay, so this next row, this last row, single crochet in 7 stitches, decrease 2 times, and then 2 times. We got 2 sets of brackets here. So we're gonna do the single crochet in the next 7 stitches, and then we're gonna do the decrease, and we're gonna repeat the decrease. And then we're going to do this whole thing over again with the single crochet in next 7 stitches, and then decreasing twice. Which would give us, because we're supposed to end up with 18 stitches, and we had 23 in the last row. So 7 stitches and 2 decreases is 2 stitches, gives us 9. And then 9 twice gives us 18, so we'll have the right amount of stitches. But if I count this out, I end up with 22, so not really sure why, like for how many stitches it'll take of the previous row, because it'll take 7 and then 4 for the 2 decreases. So, you know, 11. And then 11 plus 11 is 22. So it could be that we're just not working into the last one. But either way, here we go. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Decrease, 2, decrease, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1 decrease, 2 decrease. So we have 1 stitch left over, which, you know, this is one of those situations where if you aren't, it could be kind of confusing. You could think that it means to single crochet in the next 7 and then to decrease and then do the whole thing 2 times. So, but that's another example of how if you count out your stitches and plan it out. And a lot of times patterns will say if you're not supposed to work in every stitch in the round, you know, but we got 18 stitches. So we're gonna fasten off, leaving a tail for sewing. And when you're estimating how much of a tail to leave for sewing, I like to, depending on what it's for, like if it's going to be for attaching something, which in this case it's probably not, it's probably just for closing the bottom and the legs will have their own. but usually if you just kind of go around twice, you know, you have enough. Which in this case, I can just literally just go back and forth, so I really won't need very much tail. But in the case where if you're leaving the tail for sewing to attach something else or another piece, which we actually can check the legs. And yeah, for the legs you leave a tail for sewing. So I believe that the only reason for this tail is to close up this end here, so we don't need to leave as much of a tail as we would have if we were attaching something. So I'm only going to do about this much. And I'm going to fasten off by slip stitching into this last stitch, because why not? Take out my stitch marker, and we will, excuse me, ants. Yeah, excuse me. Okay. Oh no, stitch marker, come back. Okay. We will stuff this guy. Can you not build a web on my water bottle, please? Thank you. Go down. Oh, sure, you can sit there, I guess. Okay, let's get some fluff. I'm gonna put some in the neck first. And I'm gonna start with a smaller amount to push into the neck, because I've noticed that if you take a large amount first, like if I just tried to stuff in the amount that would fit in this, it kind of causes lumps that are hard to smooth out. But if you do it little by little. Now the neck wants to support the head, so I'm gonna stuff the neck decently firmly so that it can stand up under the weight, hopefully, of the head. What you doing, sir? Just climbing along that bag? Okay. Look like you're having trouble. I'd rather you not go in the bag. I'm gonna have to course correct you if you're headed that way. And what is this? Okay, you get off too. Go on. All these spiders about. Can you get down? Can you get down? Thank you. Okay. Alright, that seems decently firm, I suppose. So now we'll start stuffing the rest. Okay, not going too bad. We've still got some space up here. Let's see how we think this looks. Not bad, I guess. I feel like it could maybe use a little bit more. Okay. I think that looks pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my needle. And sew this shut. So I'm just going to just loop under each stitch on each side, back and forth, like this. There might be a better way, but this will get the job done. That's really all I needed to do. Although we don't want it to kind of have this ridge, so I'm gonna sort of work that down as I go. Let's see if this is better. Well, I don't know if it's better or not, but just gonna keep going down. Okay, and tighten it up. And we're gonna say, let's tie this off down here. Now this is sticking up and I don't like that, so I'm gonna feed this down under here and kind of try to pull this down a little bit, smooth it out. Why are you sticking up so much? You're illegal. Okay. Then I'm just gonna tie this off like that. I just, let's do it again. So I just come under a stitch, go into my loop, and just tighten it down. And then I usually kind of hold the knot and pull tight. And then I'll weave this around a little bit. And then after weaving it into a couple of stitches, I will just pull it into the center of the body and let it disappear. So and now I'll pull this up a little bit so that when I let it go, the end goes back in to the body. And here we have the finished neck and body. So next is the legs, which I will probably just end this video here and then start working on them next. So I'm glad that I had some comments of people saying that this was helpful, and that's pretty cool. I hope that they continue to be helpful, and see you next time.